everyone. Welcome back to Photographer Life Check. I'm your host, Qurissy, and we're just going to start off a little bit different today. I just wanted to send a huge thank you out to all of our listeners. We had such a huge and impactful first week that I was just in awe, and I'm still kind of in awe. It's been the highlight of my month, my week, and this month is my birthday. So it just feels like little pieces of joy after joy after joy. And it really has everybody here at PLC and BWP Network super, super grateful that we could find this moment to grasp onto some joy for real. With all of these things going on every day, there are multiple devastating pieces of news that we get. And sometimes it's hard to remain focused on being creative because it can feel like, and just speaking for myself, it can feel like, oh, it's more important now to be focused on this big thing. So I am just so grateful that y'all really showed up and showed out and gave us reasons and gave me reasons to focus on joy right now and to focus on my creativity. And I don't take it lightly, and I'm just really, really grateful. So I wanted to just come through at the top of the episode before we hop into it and just extend all of our thanks and gratitude because I just, I'm feeling really good about it. And also I want to say thank you for just all the grace that has been extended, for all the comments, the likes, the subscribes, the follows, all of that. Please keep doing it. You know what I'm saying? Tell a friend to tune in. We have more coming. We have a ton of big ideas, and I hope we get to accomplish them all. Also, if you don't know, BWP has hosted this annual Black Women Photographers Summit every year, and it's basically like a Black Women Photographers Comic-Con or Comic-Con, you know what I'm saying? It's a 3-day event, and for the last 2 years, I've interviewed about 5 photographers a day or something like that. And with these conversations, we want to just make sure folks can, one, find their favorite creatives and learn more about their journeys. But two, especially find different things they may not have learned about or known about, find new avenues to utilize image making and expand their own knowledge and learn something new for themselves that they could take away. That's what we hope to do here with Photographer Life Check as well. So yeah, without further ado, here's episode 2 with Rashida. Hi everybody, welcome back to Photographer Life Check. I'm your host Qurissy, and today I have my good homegirl Rashida in today. Hi. Rashida, again, thank you so much for coming today. I'm very excited to jump in and talk about the things with you because in going through your work, I found some things that really resonated with me. It touched the points in my heart.
I can't wait to know what
I want to start. I'm trying to dive right in because it was immediately going to your bio where I was like, oh, I don't know. It gave Aquarius. I loved it so bad. Your bio is the most unique bio that I've ever seen. And it kind of reminded me of a Tumblr blog post. It was just so straight up and so it felt really true and even a little mysterious and a little romantic. So I just want to read it. And then we'll talk more about the work you actually do. It says, there is always something lingering in my mind. I'm sure you can relate. I wouldn't be alive if there wasn't. Life is truly so beautiful, yet so scary and sad and heartbreaking. Yet somehow through it all, beauty still finds a way. And then you attached a beautiful song that I did listen to by 3 Chords. And they have other songs I really enjoy too. And I was just yeah, I actually don't have to talk about the work. I don't have to say, this is where I've been and this is where you can find me all the time. I can just say something that actually speaks to me. I feel so enlightened.
Wow. I remember writing that, and it's interesting to not, I don't know. I'm wait, first of all, this is on my website right now?
Yes. Here, let me drop it in the chat.
Oh my gosh.
You
No,
girl,
because I know
wrote
that is totally what I would write. And it's so me. It's funny how we put these things out there and they resonate so deeply, but because it resonates so deeply, I can easily forget, but being reminded is something that is like, actually, it's being reminded is something that I feel like I create through like learning and reminding myself, and also like sharing the true depths of myself outwardly, so that like when it comes back to me, it's like you said this was a part of you. So I feel like that's, I don't know, it was nice to hear that, but also to like know that, wow, like, okay, like I'm impacting other people with the things that I'm sharing, even if I may not remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I completely understand. I mean, especially in putting together a website, we know how much work goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, baby, like I did that 3 years ago. Like that's just where I was in the moment.
Yeah.
And like you said, like sometimes we don't realize the impact it's leaving because it was something we just did a while
Yeah.
ago, kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow.
But I am curious to know what are you listening to today
Oh
or
man,
right
what am I,
now?
like, audio wise?
Yeah, because you
Okay.
put me on with three chords. I really
Okay.
like that song
You
and it
know
made me
what's
listen to
so
them more.
funny? I literally played that same song for some friends the other day because it came up in my Spotify
Stop.
rap. Yeah. And so when you read that and said that, I was like, wow, I know I clearly did that, because that song was on replay for me, like replay. But today I've actually been listening to a song called, it's called Pretty White Lies by Mahlia. Let me just make sure I'm getting the right thing, because it's been on replay since last night. I was
Mm.
like playing it over and over. Yeah, Pretty White Lies. And so it's funny because last night I was listening to it over and over, and I went to post about the song. And so I was like talking about it on my Instagram. And then I ended up listening to her playing it live, like on guitar acoustic version. And then that made me think about how I used to, um, I have a little bit of an obsessive personality where, like, if I like a song
Mm-hmm.
or I like a thing or whatever it is, like, I will run it to the ground. Like, if I get new shoes, like, I'm going to wear those shoes out. So that's very much me when it comes to music, when it comes to like creating anything. I'm like, I'm obsessed with this and I'm going to keep doing it. So yeah, that's the song that is currently heavily in rotation in my mind. Has been this year, but heavily like this week. I'm like, it's so sweet. It sounds so sweet.
Mm. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm kind of having a moment because I'm like, I can just put the link in the description box. Wow. Early podcast. Look at milestones. We're having milestones together.
Can we play it?
Ooh, yeah.
Is that a thing?
Hopefully,
Is
I
that
think
what
we
you
could
were
play
gonna
a
say?
snippet in terms of like, copyright laws. I know you can't play like the whole
Oh,
song
okay.
or like, I don't know, there's a certain amount of time, but let's see if it catches it
Don't
because it
don't let
immediately
me.
came up in the live version too. I wanna get naked, take my shoes off, take my shirt off, take my mind off. This sound like my kind of
Take
vibe.
some time
Yes,
off.
yes, 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 yes.
Take the year
And the
up.
cover is so pretty
Right.
too.
Taking you
I love a little
up.
line work.
It's so pretty. Yeah.
Come on, too.
Wanna
Hold
make
on. You know how to
it
sing too?
time. No, one of my
Okay,
loves. One of my loves.
come on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
Photographer, singer, director.
I
Come on. Do you really sing? Like
do.
for real, for real?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I don't.
Do you have
Music out? No, not. Well, if
I'm like, do you have a secret side career?
it ideally I will in the future. We'll see what that looks like. But I
Oh,
used to sing at my church. So I used to be like the worship leader at my church a few years ago.
mhm.
So there are videos online of me like singing. Yeah, yeah. So during the
Oh my
pandemic, I was like
gosh.
in charge of making the videos and also like leading worship. So I would
Mm,
like record these videos, and it was the most stressful thing, like, but like exciting, but also like stressful because I was
yeah.
recording myself, not worshiping with the yeah. It was like
Right.
pre-recorded.
Was that your first time recording yourself also?
Not my first time recording myself, but my first time like being consistent making videos and singing, like having to put together
Mm-hmm.
an entire thing, record it, and like making it seamless. That was like my first time being
Wow.
consistent in that. But I've been music's been a huge part of my life since I was younger. And I know we're here for photography, but I will say like music shapes the way that I create as a photographer. Music shapes the way that I see the world. Music shapes the way that I feel around people, the way that I create space, the way that I
Yeah.
like curate space. So yeah, I like love the idea of working with more musicians and helping them like create vision for themselves and what they're creating as well.
Yes, I absolutely love this. I'm here to talk about it all, girl, if you want to talk about it all.
Yes.
Because also what I'm thinking about, not too long ago, just like literally a couple days ago, I had a conversation with some friends, and if like this is too personal, you don't have to answer, but I am curious, do you think do you ever like call on God while you are creating, or do you think like God is just inherently there? Or like what's your relationship to just like spirit or faith while you're creating?
Um, 100% always there, always with me. Um, yeah, that's yes, for sure. Always like, let me take the word.
Yeah, taking your
Um,
time.
I've always been like a very spiritual person, very spiritual being. Like my mom,
Mm.
my family, like we're all just very in tune with ourselves and the world and spirit and God. I think it really is all inclusive. And so when I create, I find that my best work has been when I don't put as much pressure on myself, but I like allow like the world and the world around me to speak to me, which in my opinion is God speaking to me. You know, you have
Mm-hmm.
all of these other forces within the world, but I do think through life with I walk through life with God. And that's not, I don't always use that term openly. But I went, like
Mm-hmm.
I led worship, I went to church, like I have a very close relationship with God. And that's something that I'm working on tightening more right now because I think lately I've realized like, oh, I'm not leaning on God as much, or I'm not like thinking about God
Mm.
in my processing of life, right? Like I think it's easy to feel the weight of the world on you, and with that then feel like it is you that's in charge of everything. It's you that has to like hold the weight of everything. But the reality is like it's not, right? Like we came into this world
Mm-hmm.
by forces of I would say God, right? God has created us. Yes,
Yeah.
man and woman are also like extensions of God. I think human beings are extensions of God. I think we all are godly beings, and so we all show up in hopefully in light of God, right? And so when I bring someone into my space, or when I'm creating something, or when I'm making certain decisions, I want it to be just a reflection of who God is, and light and love and all of that. And so yeah, I know that my greatest creations
Come
have
on.
been definitely remnants of like that energy through God. And then the things that I've created that I like don't care so much for are the things that I've maybe wanted to have more control over than I needed to, or that I didn't allow like the space to flow. And so those things like kind of stick with me. Like I think about those things, and I know I'm like long-winded, but yeah, I think one of my goals is to bring God into how I create. One last thing I'm gonna say is when you first asked me that question, I thought about this other podcast. It's called God is My Creative Director, and
Oh, that sounds cute.
yeah, have you heard it? So Buku, she's an amazing creative. She works with beats, but she developed this podcast. And so she brings people on and basically talks about how, like, at the end of the day, it's like if you are walking with God and you believe in God and you believe that, like, you can almost create anything with God by your side, you realize that, like, God really is creative directing this world. And then also realizing that, like, we are God, right? We are gods of this life that we live. Like, we do control a lot of the ways that our lives kind of pan out. So trusting in yourself and trusting in this like higher being of God, I think is really important to navigate this creative space.
I really, really appreciate you just being like vulnerable and open like that because I don't know, sometimes it does feel like a vulnerability or maybe just an intimacy to talk about like your own spirituality. Um, so I appreciate that for one, but then just that last bit had me thinking about like how your relationship to God or spirit or, like whatever you call it, like however that resonates to any individual, it's kind of like your relationship to anybody really, where it all is a co-creation, where there's these, at least this is how I'm processing it, where it's like there are these outside forces where I feel similar to you, where I feel like the universe, the world is speaking to me, showing me signs or something like that. And then with that information, I am co-creating different actions, different things I want to see, or oppositely, you know what I'm saying? But either way, I am co-creating something. And so I don't know, that just felt really beautiful. And I feel like also ties in with what you were talking about with music and how important music is to you. Um, you mentioned that your family has always been a very in tune, like you've always been very in tune with yourself, with the world, and like that is something that you got from your family. And I feel like I picked up on a lot of intuition and introspection going through your website. And so all of these things just feel like they're talking to each other for me. This episode is brought to you by Art House, the first Black-owned film lab in the city of Los Angeles. Now, I love Art House Film Lab. I've been using Art House for over a year, and the quality of their scans are absolutely phenomenal. They specialize in C41, black and white, E6, and ECN2 processing for both 35 millimeter and medium format film. And the coolest part is they use a custom built cinema scanner to deliver stunning movie quality stills. So join them for their grand opening on February 22nd and follow Art House Film Lab on Instagram or visit www.arthousefilmlab.com for more details. And I'm going to be there. So please come and support friends of the show and our first official sponsor of the pod. Okay, let's get into it. I feel like this was another thing that felt a little Aquarius. So before we go on, wait, can you give us your sign? When's your birthday?
Oh my gosh. So I am a Taurus. That's my sun sign. And my moon is actually Aquarius. So I think the moon is like your emotions, right? The moon is your emotion. Which is it makes a lot of sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And my rising is Sagittarius. Although, funny story, it's not really funny. My mom, I asked her what time I was born. And so I was born in the Caribbean in Antigua. And my birth certificate does not have the time of my birth. So every time I've asked my
Okay.
mom, she's been like, she just gives me like a time frame. Like she's like, I was definitely in the evening, but like early evening. And so once there was one time I put it in and it landed on my accent is not, but it landed on me being a Scorpio rising. But then when she updated it,
Mm.
it has me as a Sagittarius rising, which makes a lot more sense.
Like you feel more aligned with a
Yeah,
Sagittarius.
I think so. But yes, so those are the sides. Those are the top three. And I think everything you're saying checks out because I, I mean, my work is like so emotional, and I think photography has allowed me, and even I'm gonna keep tying music into this, but music and photography has
Please,
allowed
yeah.
me to express my emotions um best. Like I express my emotions best through visuals and through writing. And so I think my website is like probably the closest thing to how I feel and how I see the world and how I want to see the world. Um, yeah, and how the world's
Oh
revealing
my
to me.
gosh, this is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, you do feel very grounded too. That Taurus energy comes through. But I guess regardless if you're a Scorpio or a Sag, there's like a little sprinkle of crazy, which I love a chaotic good, where it's like we could be a little crazy.
What's your sign again?
Okay, I'm Sun and rising Aquarius and a Scorpio moon.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah, so I also got myself a little sprinkle. I do,
Okay.
I do.
Okay. This makes sense. Love it.
But while we're talking about the website, I want to pull it up, and if it's okay with you, I want to start in your personal work section.
Sure. Oh, wow.
And boom, here we are. So I wanted to start with brown sugar. I absolutely loved this. Also, this was another thing where I'm like, you are just feeling like my kind of woman because it feels it feels like professional work, but also in this relaxed way. So it just feels like you. Cause like this just reminds me of Tumblr. It's like here's this gorgeous photo and some songs that go with the vibe. I love it. It makes me remember to like not take myself or this industry or this work so seriously. Like I can present myself in the way that I choose. And I really appreciate that. It was like, this is just such a beautiful reminder to me.
Thank you.
So yes, yes, yes. So with that, I'm just gonna like scroll through a couple of your pieces. Can you talk to me a little bit about, and if you want me to go to a specific one, perfectly fine. Can you talk to me a little bit about like how you approach your personal work, and this idea of like introspection, like where do these stories come from for you? Is it something that you fall into, or are these the things that you've been like thinking on and sitting with for a while?
Yeah, I think in general, it all depends. I love collaboration. I love like bringing other people's visions to life, but I also love being able to like ideate and think about a concept and stretch it a little bit further. So it's like, are we being super literal, or are we taking it somewhere else where like this, like maybe this one word can mean one thing, but when we photograph it, like maybe we're thinking about how we can shape it differently. And a lot of the ways that I create in studio is like, we'll have the concept, we'll have the subject, and then I'll know what kind of lighting I want to do. But I also allow myself and the subject to just create together and move. And if I'm like, I don't really like this, I'll shift it. If I'm like, oh, I see this, like I'll move with that. So with the first one you showed, Brown Sugar, that was with Nastasia. She's the model in the photo. And ironically, she had came to me with wanting to shoot a concept called Brown Sugar. And I also had been like thinking about that same like idea. I was like, oh, me too. Like I really wanted to shoot under the subject of brown sugar. I think I maybe had watched the movie and I was like, oh, I kind of want to create under that. And so we got a stylist. I got a studio, Blanc Studios in Brooklyn. And so we just kind of like came together. I got a makeup artist. We came together and used sugar and used her brownness and then talked about like I think we talked about just like relationships, intimacy, being a Black girl and like want like what that is, what that feels like. And I can't fully remember, but I know I basically approached it really lightheartedly to where I instead of making it super intense and professional, I just texted her and I was like, hey, can you just answer these 3 questions? And she texted me her answers and I just like copied and pasted it into the thread because honestly, we are all very busy people. And so doing personal projects can be very difficult to like do, shoot, plan, shoot, deliver, and then like showcase it. It's very important to me to showcase work in a way that's like digestible and not and also live somewhere off of social media. Like I really I also come from the world of like Tumblr. I love sharing stories and I love writing and I love being able to like lay things out. So yeah, that's what this was and a lot of other things. This was like a me thing. So I did some personal writing. And I had my friend come to this hotel that I was staying in, and we actually didn't feel like shooting this day, but because I didn't feel like shooting, I like didn't feel very comfortable in my body. I was like, I actually think that makes it even more important for me to do this. And now looking back at the photos, I'm like, oh, I like love them so much. And the way that I was like judging my body that day and thinking about like who I am in my body today is like really just has shifted my perspective tremendously. And so saying all that, like I've just learned so much about myself throughout this past year. Like this, I think this was like almost exactly a year ago when I shot it. It was like I think we shot this in like October, end of October. And so I don't know, just like being able to one create with my photographer friends without like, having to plan too much and like really using the spaces that we have, using like allowing, again, I'm going to go back to like allowing the ways that God has like has the natural light coming into this room and like us using our brains of like how to change the settings to make sure everything still looks clean. Like I think we over complicate creating a lot. I know I do. And so I'm trying to get back to this idea of like everything is already here for me. Like I don't really need to get lighting unless I want to display a very specific thing. But if I want to create, like the world is here for me to create it. I have the tools and yeah, can just like go with that. So long-winded, but
My goodness. No, please don't worry about it. That's why we're here on this wonderful podcast. First of all, you look absolutely amazing in this one. I was particularly gravitated towards this one because one, I love the color grading you did. I think the shots are beautiful. And I love the way you told just the full story on this whole page. You like, everyone should actually go and read this because I did. I'm also a Venus in Aries, and I was like, oh my God,
gosh.
my same. So I was reading this like, read me.
Venus and Aries is like, anyway, you know.
Exactly. Y'all, when y'all read it, y'all will understand.
And thanks for pointing out
Um,
the color grading, because I did edit these photos myself. And that is like, I actually think editing photos is way more exciting and important to me than the taking of the photo. Like
really?
taking photos, I'm very, very good at it. My mom is calling me right now. It's okay.
Hey, Mom.
Yeah. Hey, mom, I'll call you back later. But yes, color grading photos to me is, that's so funny. I was like thinking about her so much this morning. I meant to call her, but yeah,
Come on.
color grading
Telepathy.
is
Yes.
important to me because I think colors tell such a story. Like colors tell so many different stories, right? And I
Yeah.
do have a specific tone that I typically keep my photos in. And sometimes it feels difficult for me to do that and to like I, I often want to change things up. I'm often like, oh, I've done this like 10 times, or like but it's like it's also important to have a signature and to know like to perfect the craft of what you're doing, but to also like push boundaries of like, okay, maybe I'm used, like I love black and white, but like maybe I can try a colorful black and white. Maybe I can like make it a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
contrast. It's like really, for me, looking at an image and figuring out what needs to be done for this image specifically and trying things. Like always like, okay, maybe I'll try this, and I'm like, this doesn't really work, and then I'll like switch it around.
Yeah.
And it all this to say, like color grading and editing and using the different tools really helps me to see an image, really helps me to like bring an image to life. I think that's really what excites me the most about this work.
Okay. So, boom. I'm just kind of surprised. I think because I love your photos so much, I'm surprised to hear you say that editing is where you have the most fun, even though it makes sense. I feel similarly in that, like, I take pride in like the color grading that I accomplish because I work hard to also like create an aesthetic, but still like practice and like play around and all that kind of stuff. So with that in mind, how do you balance like the fun of this industry, this introspection, the deep yearning we feel to tell specific stories, and then like making real money doing commercial work or like other commission pieces with companies or just like other artists? Like, how are you balancing all these things?
Yeah, I don't know. um
So true.
I think I'm currently trying to find a better balance with it all, because if most people look at my work, or actually I'll even say a lot of people don't even go to my website, right? A lot of people don't go to
Okay.
people's websites. A lot of people don't know what I do on a day to day. And
Yeah.
so like I, I think the reality is like my work is a very wide variety of things, right? Like, but event photography has taken up a lot of space in my life over the
Hmm.
last few years, more than I think I wanted it to. Because I am really good at event photography. I'm good at documenting things. I'm great at like, I've figured out a great lighting of from shooting with the flash on camera. Like I've I've kind of navigated all of these different spaces and figured out how to like jump from each of the spaces. So that hasn't really allowed me the best like work life balance. If
Yeah.
that's like the heart of the question, right? Like how you
Mm, not exactly. I think it absolutely relates. I think I'm more so wondering about like your internal sense about when you're creating just for yourself for
Mhm,
something like the project we just saw, 214,
mhm.
or when you're, and I also assume in some of that like it's for the fun, it's for the love, and I could
Yeah.
be assuming wrong. And that, like, for example, some of these events, like some of those shoots you could just be doing because you're good at it and can make some money doing it. And some of them I'm sure you're also enjoying. But it's like, how do you balance that, I guess, internal emotional state when you're doing things you don't always want to do, and then sometimes doing the things you want to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So I think how do I balance that? I've been working really hard to balance that. I think boundaries has been a word that I've been like that's been popping up for me this year. And I actually think like having a work-life balance is important in discerning like, is this something that I actually need to do? Or if I am creating a project that's personal, that excites me, it's like how much effort I'm putting into that. That is very difficult for me. Like work has, because I love photography so much, because I love helping people and delivering a good product, like, and because photography was once not work, it feels difficult to know whether or not something is like a job is really giving me joy or not. And then at the end of the day, it's like it really is a job. I believe so. Like it really is a job. Literally anything I do is just, even if I love it so much, it's a job and it's getting me paid. Now, if I'm doing the job and maybe it's not paying me as much, but it's giving me an opportunity to like hone in a skill, or say like I really like, I love portraits, right? But like I don't necessarily want to take portraits of everyone that comes to me and that asks me to take portraits. So like I think that, I don't know, I feel like I'm going in circles, but I think
that's where you brought the boundaries back, actually, where
yeah,
it's like
yeah, I think it really,
knowing when to say no.
yeah, I think it just comes down to boundaries, like really just being like, get, I'll share something, share something that happened recently.
Please do.
And it's still like, it's still permeating in my soul heavily, and it hurts and it sucks and all of that. But okay, so I shot something a few weeks ago, and so it was like a week-long thing, and I was shooting underneath another friend's company because this friend couldn't do it. And so I ended up picking it up, and I was actually really sick. I was sick that previous week, and I was feeling better leading up to it, but I definitely like, I should have just not been working at all. I should have just been resting. So I took this job on because one, it was a great opportunity to connect with that company, and also just like, you know, it would have just been great to connect to that side of the community. Also I'm new in LA, so it was like I can build relationships in this way. It was a really, really amazing experience. Totally would not have changed it for anything. However, I knew that I wasn't feeling well. The days were very long, and by time this was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Thursday, I got asked to do something extra because someone else called out sick because they weren't feeling well. So they were like, "Hey, would you be able to cover this?" They gave me the option to say no, but I said yes. That was like that was the first kind of like boundary that I crossed with myself, with saying like, with knowing like you are tired, you've been doing a lot, you need to rest up because you still have 3 more days of shooting. It was Friday, Saturday, 2 more days of shooting, and then I also had a personal project on Sunday that I was shooting. That was, call time was like 8 o'clock. So I was doing work, and then I also had personal work that I was also prepping throughout the week. So ended up doing the job the Thursday, and then I had the Friday, very long day. They also put me on to capture the event, and I was still in charge of capturing the group. So
Ooh,
I was technically doing two jobs, right? And keep in mind, Tuesday,
yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, these days are like I'm up by 5. I was sleeping like maybe 2 to 3 hours each night because I had to like dump the cards, do everything. And I was
Yeesh.
also coughing. Like
Right.
I wasn't well. So
Oh my God.
all of this to say, then Saturday comes around, and I also will preface this with I have a really high tolerance just for I can show up and I will do the work. Like I'm not if I say I'm doing something, like I'm showing up, I'm pulling into the reserve, I'm doing all of that. And so I showed up, I did the work.
Yeah.
I didn't feel I mean I felt tired, but like I didn't feel as bad as it.
Like it wasn't the most present feeling.
Yeah. 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 So I felt like I was
Okay.
balancing my energy and my desire to be there, but I also knew like I don't really want to do events that much anymore. Like events don't excite me to the point
Hmm.
where like I almost
Yeah.
don't even think I'm doing as good of a job because it's not something that excites me. So therefore, yes, I'm
Yeah.
shooting this. Yes, like when I deliver the work, it's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. But like it being present for a job that you are doing matters. Like being present, wanting to be there, in my
Hmm.
opinion, I think all of that matters. This is, again, not to say that I didn't
Yeah.
want to be there, but the underlying things are I am not interested in event photography anymore. I was not balancing my like I was tired, I was
Health.
overworked, I was all of these things. So long and short, by Saturday, I shot everything I needed to shoot, and the day started at like 9:30. I was up around like 7 something because I had to like pack and prep and whatever. And so I shot the brunch, and then I gave like a speech to the students, to the cohort, and then I took some portraits of them all. I also gave them a physical Polaroid. So I took that first, and then I gave it to them, and then I did
Ah,
the
amazing.
photos of them on the digital. After that, I had like an hour to eat, and then I had to prep myself to be ready for like 5 o'clock. So it was like 2:45, 3 o'clock when I sat down to eat. And I should have dumped the photos from the card, but I didn't have enough time. I was exhausted. Like at
Oh
that
my
point,
God.
I was exhausted. So I end up
Yeah.
just like, I dumped everything. I gave the people who were dumping the cards that they were responsible for, and then I kept the other one. So then I go up to my room,
Okay.
I change to go back down to shoot the red carpet that they had. And so keep in mind, my day started technically at like 7 something.
Oh my God.
So now also I'm fine. I'm tired, but like let's go. Like super I'm a very organized person. Like I have all my SD cards in a packet
Yeah.
thing.
The
Yeah,
holder
holder.
thing. Yeah.
Um I'm like I don't even yeah, I'm just a very organized person. And so I have
Yeah.
everything together, but the thing that was different from my processing is that they were collecting the cards, dumping them, and then they would bring it back to us, and they asked us to like format all of the cards, which I was doing, but I was like waiting in between to format any card.
To
So
just make sure.
just
Yeah,
make
that
sure.
makes sense. Oh my God. I'm so
So
stressed out about
so
what you're about to say. Oh
So
my God.
I basically am now on site like 5 o'clock to 10:30 p.m. Like I'm backstage, they're doing the awards. Every time they finish, like somebody comes back, I snap the portraits of them with their awards. And then like maybe 10, 15 minutes after, the person that's running the cards grabs it and goes. So I remember looking at the card, at the photos, and be like, oh, this is the card from earlier. Let me tuck this away. Tucked it away. Finished the night. Everything's great. Bah, bah, bah. I go to the hotel room. I pack everything up. I'm like, okay, I have everything. And then the next, get to the apartment, because I was staying at the hotel, go to the apartment, charge everything so that I'm prepared for the next day.
Do it all over
Next
again.
shoot.
Yes.
So I get to the shoot and I open up my bags and I'm like, okay, let me look at all the cards. And as soon as I opened it, I was like, there's something missing. I start checking. So the only thing on my mind is like, the one card I need needs to be here. And it was not.
Yeah.
It was gone.
And you never found it.
Still, I don't know. Like, I can't tell you. I honestly can't tell you if that card got wiped. I really don't think I wiped it. I think it just maybe like fell out somewhere or whatever. But I'm saying all this to say, right? I'm now on an important shoot that is like,
yeah.
I'm also in the shoot. Like, I'm like interviewing, very similar to what we're doing. Like, I'm like,
oh, right.
Working.
Yeah.
So I'm interviewing. So I'm on camera. I'm going to be taking portraits of her. Like, I've been planning this for weeks. And now the thing that I've been planning and putting effort into has been slightly overtaken. I obviously focused on it and did what I needed to do, but it was such a huge lesson to me to, one, be organized, but like when you take on too much, it is inevitable. Like something is gonna go wrong. And I actually think that was just a lesson from above to like have some boundaries, like set boundaries, like say no, rest,
give yourself a break.
give yourself
you can't
a break.
think about it all. You can't have it all. Like, ooh,
No.
because then now there's stress. Also, can you tell us how you manage that? Like, did you have to tell somebody, like, hey, like, can you?
Yeah,
this is
I know
my heart, because I've been there before, but it was also like much earlier in my career. And I remember feeling incredibly embarrassed. I was like, these people ain't never gonna hire me again. I'm done.
Yeah.
So could you please tell all of us how you managed that, how you managed to get through the things that you felt maybe were helpful when you were just being honest with your client? That was so sweet. I would be happy to leave it in.
Yeah.
He was like, look, I love you, baby. Make sure you call me back.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah. Well, my dad, honestly, my dad loves photography. He's I'm not going to say he's probably, but he's definitely one of the reasons why I'm a photographer. Like, it was, he always had it around.
God,
he always,
yes.
So I've like, he's definitely one of the reasons why I am here, still doing this. Yeah. Even start.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you. But yeah. So
your first camera?
Well, yes. Technically, yes. He bought me my first camera, and such a bummer that camera got stolen. And I almost I stopped shooting after that. And then when I got to New York was when I started back up, like, because everyone was like, you should do this. And I was like, okay, I'll try again. So yeah. It was a very depressing time. And
I feel like most of us have that era. Yeah. I feel that. I will absolutely
17.
go on this tangent, so I will stop myself.
I want to hear it, but yes. Well, stolen camera, lost SD card, all of that. How did I deal with?
Yes. Yeah, how do you deal with, making a mistake like that?
I am a very honest person. I communicate, like, I'm like, communication is like top notch for me. And I don't like too much time passing before communicating, but I also am like a very hopeful person. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that, like, before I communicate, like, I've tried everything that I need to try to get the thing back.
True, true, true. Yes.
So with that being said, I'll just to give you a idea of like the tiers of people. It was a lot of people to
Mm-hmm.
go through, right? Yeah. So
Go,
I
go, go.
I first had to
Sorry.
reach out to the media company to be like, hey, do y'all have a card? Like, I'm missing a card. Blah 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 blah. Now, here's the thing. I also know that, like, yes, I'm missing this card, but I don't remember giving them this card. So there's in my brain how I remember everything. I'm like, I have a very photographic memory. I like, again, obsessive. So like, I'm kind of obsessive with how I process things, with how I think about things. Like, I'm very like this. So first ask them, knowing like I hope they do, but it's very unlikely that they do. So then from there, she then, this is where it became embarrassing. We had a group chat with all of the other photographers. So she then messaged that group,
Oh
hey,
no.
this is missing. Like, does anyone know this? Da, da, da. And so she keeps asking these questions to the group. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Now I'm the one that like lost something and doesn't have footage. So also keep in mind the
Yeah.
footage
Oh.
that I lost was only like a solid hour of shooting, just like portraits of it and thing, and very important. But yeah, in my opinion, I was like,
You still have a ton.
yeah, like I was with those
Yeah.
students the whole week. Like, I captured so much of them. The only difference is that they had the t-shirts that the brand gave them. So they wanted them to be captured in that. And it's like tradition. So
Right. Okay.
so there was that. So then I had to then go to the vendor that hired me, which was very difficult because this vendor is a friend of mine. So not only is
Right.
it like
Right.
a vendor that like has like this person's a friend. So now I'm going to this person and I'm like so embarrassed. I feel so terrible. I think I feel more bad that like I was hired from a friend and like I dropped the ball on this thing. Like, even though
Yeah.
I did everything else right, dropping the ball on this one thing felt so gut wrenching and still does. I'd still look for the card every time I open my camera bag. Like, I'm still looking for the
That's
card.
so
I'm still
real.
every time I open up a SD card, like I look on an SD card, I'm still looking for this thing. So, that was very difficult. And then I think, keep in mind, I'm still on this shoot day. So I'm shooting and then I'm like getting text messages and I'm trying to deal with this. And he's like, where was the last
Yeah.
flight? Da, da, da. So then that's like one thing. And then I had to, then I think like Monday, I sent an email to the person who was running the photo department at this bigger company, which was
Okay.
also like very difficult for me. Like, all of it was difficult, just communicating and being like sorry, but
Yeah.
also just like giving as much details and being like, hey, like, it almost was just like, this is just what it is. Like, I I
Yeah.
can't really fix it, right? And so that was
Right. That's the
hard.
thing about photography. Like, if we lose our images, like that's just it. There's no backup plan for that.
Especially if you haven't
And that's
imported
really
them yet.
difficult to deal
And
with.
so like, I'm like
Yeah.
going back to the art of, I guess, what we're talking about, of like, how do I figure out what I'm giving my energy to, and is this I just like, I feel like it wasn't worth it. Like, it made it so that like now I'm now stressed about this thing a whole other 2 weeks now, probably for the rest of my life, because that's just how I am.
Right.
Person, but
Right now you're just holding on to this shame of one mistake that was like barely in your control entirely, right? Like that's insane.
like, so that was really hard. So I think, I mean, that I know now it's like kind of a tangent of other things, but I think as I'm developing, like working on my own company and hopefully doing more podcasts and interviewing people and figuring out like what's the best process in saving content and like, like thinking about these things and wanting to have a balance of like this I'm doing this job because when you're starting your own thing, when you have your own company and you need to fund things, you have to
Right.
do things that may not, make you happy or may not be like 100% something that you want to do. So with navigating life right now, like I'm trying to be intentional about what I say yes to, and the projects that are my own, figuring out like what makes this exciting for me, because doing this job, being a photographer, it's not all fun. Like it's a lot of hard work. It every time I say, even if I do a test shoot, like that's still a solid like 48 hours of work, maybe longer, like and really
depending on how big the project is,
right, exactly. Even if I do like just quick headshots for someone for free, like I I think it's so important to know what time management is, the amount of time that things take from you, whether or not you love it or not. Like you can love something so much and be like, I want to do this all the time, but it's like, is that sustainable? Right? Like if you do something too much, it might wear you out, and even if you love it, like it's just not sustainable. So yeah. I hope that like kind of answered the question or gave
I
some
completely understand.
insight.
No, absolutely, girl. We're learning boundaries as humans and as business people. And being a photographer is a very fun job, but like you said, it's a ton of work. So I appreciate you being so transparent with us today. We are coming up on time, but I still have a couple of quick questions before we wrap up. A little, just light, kind of quick little moments. So this is the segment called The Gear Don't Matter, but because as you all know, as photographers, we are more than our gear, because if the gear mattered that much, you could take the same photo. So my question is, what's your favorite piece of equipment to use? Doesn't have to be a camera. And then what's a piece of equipment you like to use that you haven't yet?
Okay. I'm going to say a scrim.
Okay, yes. Yes, we need a scrim.
Listen, it does wonders outside and inside. I haven't gotten to use a scrim as much,
My
but
goodness,
like
yes.
I think every time I've used one or seen it be used, it can change an image tremendously.
Like drastically. I
Yeah.
really appreciate a scrim.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna stick with that.
I love it. Okay,
I'm
so
gonna
what's
say
something you haven't used yet? Oh, wait. Yeah, what's something you haven't used yet but would like to?
haven't used. Okay. I would like to use, this is in the video world because I want to do more video. I don't
Yes.
know that I want to have the video camera or not. I I think I'll feel like I really made it when I get to use, like, I don't even know what it's called, but on those like big movie sets where like the camera's being controlled by like one of those, like it's like on this
Oh,
like
the ring
The rigs. Yeah, like
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love a good rig. And I think,
Me too.
yeah, like the day that I get to like be on set and even just like directing it or being like, okay, like let's have this. I think I'll be a very happy girl. There's nothing better than like a video camera moving smoothly through time, through space. Like,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. I cannot wait to see the BTS of you strapped up in a cool ass rig, just huge, ginormous, and then what you create. Like, it's gonna be so fire.
Yeah. Think
Um,
think that.
and this is my segment called Shoot Your Shot, which is where you get the opportunity to just say who is someone or a brand you'd love to work with.
Ooh, boy.
Because everybody need Rashida on the set.
Listen,
But who Rashida want on the
it's
set?
true. I know. Oh God, I don't know. Oh, I don't want to be basic.
Basic is relative.
I know, I know. Okay, I think I will be very happy one day if I get to shoot a Calvin Klein commercial ad, whether it's like motion and stills. Um I love
Yeah.
I love I love it because or I love their brand because it's so clean and it reminds me of like the work I started do with, just like it's simple but like super
Mm-hmm.
clean. They're very
So classic.
subject driven. It's so classic. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like yeah. And I got to sit in
Okay.
on one of the jobs I did in the past, which I'll make this as quick as possible. One of the greatest
Mhm.
things about being an event photographer, I think, is that even though it doesn't feel like commercial work, if you get to work with commercial clients, it is commercial work. Like you are, in a way, doing commercial work because those photos can be used
Yeah, I feel that.
internally. So I was doing a job for HFR and they brought cohort of young designers in to different companies. I think it was like Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein was one of them. And so I got to sit in and they did like a presentation on their brand Bible and guidelines. And it's just amazing to me to be able to see how brands position themselves and on the inside on the back end. I think it's so important to know like okay,
Yeah.
like this is how I want to show up, and so it definitely shows itself in the content that they create, in the media that they create and put out. So yeah, I think I would
Mm.
shoot my shot to them.
Well, I will reframe and say you will be happy the day you shoot your motions and your stills for Calvin Klein. Yes.
Thank you.
Um, so really quick, I almost forgot you mentioned your studio. I can share a little bit of your client work while you talk to us about your studio. I don't wanna leave before you get to
Sure,
mention.
yeah. Well, I have a physical studio here in LA now, which is super exciting. So I'm excited to have it. I probably won't be having it super public, but I want this
Oh,
studio
oops.
to be. Oh no 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 no! It's okay. Like it. I don't want it to be. I'm not gonna make
Okay.
it public to where like people can book into it, but I want this studio to be a space for the community, like my community, my network of people to, if they want to come in here and shoot something, if I'm working on something and
Got
I want to
you.
bring like I want it to be utilized within the community. I don't really
Yeah.
know how I'm structuring that yet. Like, is it paid? Is it not? Like, I just want us to be able to create in a space and get out of, our typical spaces that we are in. So with that being said, I'm actually developing a company called 531 Studios. And so ideally will be like it'll be a network driven studio where I'm essentially doing what I'm doing right now as a photographer, but telling more stories, bringing more of us in. If you have a story that you want to tell, if you have something you want to produce, I want to be the person that can help bridge that gap. And one of the slogan is to redefine how we're social with media. So I really want to redefine how I'm being social with the media that I'm creating and with the people that I'm creating. And yeah, helping us like shift
Wow.
our minds in that just a little bit. And soon,
Yes. This is
hopefully,
so
by time this comes
beautiful.
out, I'll have more to share around that. But that's where I'm at right now.
Yes,
Thank
I can't wait, and I'm sure it's gonna be so beautiful. Let me stop sharing your site for a second. I could have went on multiple different tangents from things you said today, so I feel like you're gonna have to come back
I
one
think so.
day.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully, we're recording it
I am
here.
so grateful. Exactly. Next time we'll be recording in person in your studio.
Yeah.
But again, I am so, so grateful. We got to speak to you today. Like, this was a dream come true, really. And there's so much more I could have taken from your website. And I feel like I have so many more questions for you, but I really, really appreciate the time you took today. It was really beautiful learning about your ideas and how you think about the work that you do in your own life. So thank you so much. Could you tell the people where you would like to be found?
You can find me first on my website, www.rashidaz.com, RASHIDAZ as in Z.com. That's where my work lives. And then you can also get to my Instagram from there, or just type my full name in Rashida Zagon, RASHIDAZAGON, into your Instagram page, and you'll find me. And yeah, or in the streets, you might see me randomly in LA or New York. Who knows?
Hey, come on, Bicoastal.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
All right.
Again, I'm your host, Qurissy. You can find us at Photographer Life Check on Instagram, or me, QURISSY, on Instagram. Also, thank you to Black Women Photographers for hosting and producing this incredible, beautiful show. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.